So I'm going to share with you how to start conversations online that actually get responses. How do I start conversations with strangers online? Should you even bother, right? Influencers will tell you, oh God, I never cold message, ew, right? Like they're going to bash it. Why? Because they don't need to. If you build influence, you can have leads coming to you every single day, every day, right? No problem. So you don't have to go into cold messaging. However, most of you don't have that level of influence. And it took me about a year, maybe, of pretty constant content and a ruthless consistency for me to start generating leads, at least for free, and become more influential. Okay. If you're on here and you're not generating, and people aren't just beating down the bushes to get to you, and you're not generating leads, then you need to understand this because it works. Many of you know my story with one of our favorite students, Christina Danielle. She did not want to do attraction marketing. She didn't want to do YouTube. She didn't want to do videos. She didn't want to do all the standard stuff that everyone was teaching, but she heard me talk about cold messaging and she's like, well, I can do that. She uses my cold messaging scripts to go and become the #1 recruiter in her company for, I think, 5 years straight. She beat out every other influencer % by starting conversation with strangers online. This was no offline stuff. And I'm not against offline, but there was nothing offline, everything online, total strangers, did it part-time. You can do it too. And by the way, if you want to hear her story, it is on our YouTube channel. I interviewed her. I drilled her. I'm like, all right, what exactly did you say? Where'd you find people? That interview is actually on our YouTube channel if you want to check it out. There's a few things to understand when it comes to starting conversation with strangers online. First of all, this is not the place to build rapport. And I know it's so popular to tell you, people do business with those who know, like, and trust them, right? That can apply, but not when it comes to cold messaging strangers online. There are only two times where I suggest you build rapport. Number one, offline. If you are at a networking event, a charity event, right? You meet someone at the grocery store, build rapport. It'd be strange for you to just get to the point. Hey, you looking to change your life? Like, it'd be strange, right? Or number two, when you're messaging a stranger online and they say no, perfect time to build rapport after. Now, most amateurs, if someone says no to them, they're like, you're dead to me, right? And they stop talking to them. That's not the way to go, right? Build rapport after they say no. Those are the two times, not when you initially reach out. Like in all marketing, let's be honest, all good marketing, we should be entering the conversation of the prospect. What is the prospect thinking? We're not trying to invent new things for them to think. Initially, we're trying to intercept what are they currently thinking. If a stranger reaches out to you online, what is it you wonder? You wonder at least two things. What do they want? Why did they reach out to me? So the faster you get to those 2 points, the more likely you're going to get a response. Now, there is nothing that's going to give you a 100% response. It doesn't exist. 100% of the people won't even see your message. This is a numbers game. It doesn't mean that human beings are numbers. It means that your effort is a numbers game. And if you listen to the Christina Danielle interview, she talks about, I send a lot of messages. She's like, yeah, it's a lot of numbers, right? But those numbers enabled her to become, again, the #1 recruiter in her company, many years straight. She gets a trophy like every year. When you're reaching out, you need to be able to tell them, what is it that you want? Why are you reaching out to them, and why them specifically? There's multiple ways that we talk about doing this: occupation, location, perhaps intelligent comment, or giving them feedback on their content. Now, what I don't care for is I don't care for the generic, ooh, I love your profile. Ooh, you're so good, right? I don't like that because it just seems spammy. Some people would say, oh, sending any cold messages is spammy. That's just not true. Every industry does it. I have a buddy that works for Gartner Group. They sell $50,000 to $200,000 software packages, consulting packages, things like that. They do cold messaging all day long. I know plenty of realtors that do cold messaging all day long. I know plenty of financial planners, plenty of people who sell insurance. Literally every major industry does cold messaging, but some of the influencers inside of direct sales, they bash it. The people who don't have influence and don't have good marketing, they're left to scratch their head and wonder, what the hell do I do? And by the way, if you like this this topic, how to start conversation with strangers online, make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow, because I'm one of the very few people that teach this. There's not a whole lot of people that teach this stuff. Now, I'm going to tell you something pretty amazing that happened last night. Two primary things that I do is I train sales teams. I'll usually get hired by a leader to train their sales teams, usually for 6 weeks. It's kind of the, gist. Sometimes I'm hired to speak at their team events, et cetera. And I also do one-on-ones. Yesterday, I had a couple different teams that I worked with, and I also had one or two one-on-ones, right? And the one couple that I was coaching one-on-one, they were wanting to reach out to med spas, okay? So they sell a product that more spas should be carrying. It's a great product. It's amazing. And they want to reach out to more med spas. I showed them how using AI, they could get massive amount of emails of people associated or own med spas. And I showed them how to get that for free, helped them write a script. And they had been nervous, right? I don't know if you ever feel nervous to send that first message, but they had been nervous to send that first email for weeks. And last night we got them to send the first email. I showed them just this plethora of places to get those exact leads, and they're off to the races. Like they're going to hit a new rank in their company. I feel very confident about that. There are lots of different ways when it comes to starting conversations with strangers online. It doesn't have to be social media. Did you know that? Could be email. And I'll tell you, a lot of people do. I think people, back, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, email, messaging was pretty crazy. But if you sound human when you send the email and you have a good list of emails, that can be extremely effective. And here's a beautiful thing about you. Has anyone ever gone to Facebook jail? Has anyone gotten in trouble for sending too many messages? That's very common nowadays. Even Instagram is throttling that, right? Well, emails, as long as you're not sending to a bulk, like 5,000 people at a time or 500 people at a time, if you're doing individual, you can do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those for free every single day, every day, of a specific type of person. It's amazing. It's amazing what you can do with technology nowadays. Just absolutely incredible. I showed them how, but even with email, it's a stranger. You still need to tell them, why are you reaching out to them and why them specifically? Why them? Do you specifically work with realtors? Do you specifically work with med spas? Like, you need to be specific. If you're going to do this kind of tactic, especially around email, you even want a custom email signature that speaks to the person that you're actually messaging. Very powerful. Now, I teach the heck out of cold messaging. In fact, early last year, I had a leader in Australia. Her name's Christy Morgan. She reached out to me and she said, hey, I'd like you to teach my team cold messaging, but I want you to teach me first because I want to make sure it works. I'm like, okay. I taught her, gave her the scripts, gave her the targets. And in the next 60 days, she generated over $100,000 in personal commissions from new sales of total strangers. Then she had me train her team, and her team's been rank advancing and just crushing it like crazy, right? So this stuff works. You just got to do the work, and you got to remember some of the rules, right? What are the rules? We got to tell them why are we reaching out to them and why them specifically? Why them specifically? Now, I'll tell you, even though I teach cold messaging and it's something that literally anyone on the planet can do, you don't have to have influence. You don't have to have professional photos. You don't have to have a brand. You don't have to have a lot of the things that people tell you have to have. Still, my favorite is creating content that attracts people to you. So again, if you like this topic, I talk about it all the time. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow, and I appreciate you so very much. God bless you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.